Good morning. I'm going to call the January 17th regular board meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District to order. It is 9:06. And if we could have roll call, please, Denise.
Once you
I'll
get.
let you back your seat.
Director Gagliardi,
Here.
Director Pick,
Here.
Director Sonny,
Here.
Director Miller,
Here.
Chair Level.
Here, thank you. We're going to have a pledge of allegiance, please. And John, would you read us?
Yes, absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Communications, announcements, informational items.
Just one personal one. I will have to be leaving at 12:15 for a procedure.
Okay. I have one. You will be getting, Mike, a notice from LAFCO that there will be an opening for the regular board position for special districts. And I suspect it'll come before the end of the month. So it's Pete Poitras's position, and his time is up on LAFCO in May. So given LAFCO's ability to get things out early, they're sending out the letter early. So then it's open to anybody who serves on a special district that they can apply.
We'll
So-
make sure that we distribute that as soon as we get it.
Okay, and then as soon as they close that, then it will be back for the board, our board, to vote on who the applicants are. And I have, at this point, no idea. So,
Yeah, no problem. I recall the procedure. So
okay, so I just want to give you a heads up. I knew it because of LAFCO, and then Kate announced it last night at Special District, so.
Chair
Okay.
Level, if I may, I have an announcement about the Military Lounge.
Okay,
Just
perfect.
wanted to update everyone on the success of the Military Lounge. Thank our 5 sponsors, as well as our staff coordinators, Wendy and Donald. Much success, great comments of endearment for us serving our community in that way at that time of year. If you want additional information, you can check out your planning and marketing staff.
Perfect, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
I came by a couple of times and there were people not only in here, but out in the chairs that are out in the history part. So we had an overflow lounge, which was great. Any public comment on non-agenda items? Any hands up? No. I'm going to close public comment. And we'll go to the consent agenda. And I'm sure you all had time to review it.
Yes, I move for acceptance of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I'd like to pull items for clarification, so whenever that's appropriate.
Which
Yeah.
ones?
1 and 3.
1 and 3. All right. Would you like to amend your motions
Yes,
and second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of approving item 2 on the consent agenda?
We do roll call or?
Roll caller. Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick.
Aye.
Director Sonny,
Abstain.
Director Miller,
yes.
Chair Level.
Yes. Okay. Let's hear it, Director Sonny.
Yes, in fact, you and I discussed this yesterday, Director Laffel. The lease for the Forza Motors MPI was requested to be reviewed by the board, and I did see it in our packet, but I didn't see it as a point of conversation. And I'm just wondering if that could be on next month's agenda, or if things changed from what our meeting notes are to when the packet was created.
So you're not changing the minutes, you're just asking.
And I can save it for later. I just want to acknowledge that it was in the minutes to be discussed by the board.
Okay, but you're still saying to approve those minutes?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so that's number 1. And number 3?
And 3, I just have some items of clarification.
Okay.
When I can find it, just a second. This was the finance meeting. There we go. And there's a comment that Wilson updated the committee on a new expected date to make final payments on the purchase of the Northeast hangars. Could we have a few more details on that?
Do not know. It's in the hands of Avila to contact with PG&E. We know PG&E came out and did their initial walkthrough and inspection, so now they have to schedule the actual change over, and that's in Avila's hands to get that scheduled with them.
And I know.
So I think once it's done. We have a guaranteed maximum price of $7,040,000, but yeah.
Okay. I appreciate that. And I remember that PG&E was in question and they were able to get it done in a timely manner so we could move forward and get everybody transitioned. So that was great. So I appreciate just understanding where things are at and having a few more details on that. I think the other items are all things that we have talked about. My one thing I just did want to highlight too, that 21 of the 24 box hangars are now rented. So that was highlighted in the notes, and that's wonderful to see that we've been able to transition so many of our hangar tenants. Thank you.
Okay, so for the future, are you now agreeing with the minutes?
I'm agreeing with the minutes, but I
Okay,
wanted
so Next
clarification.
time, we'll talk about that when we do the board reports, because that's
Okay.
the time to talk about it and not when we're approving
That's
the
fine,
minutes,
if you wanna
unless you
do
have a
it.
problem with the actual minutes. But I think the minutes were clear.
Clarification.
So,
Nope.
could I now have a motion on items 1 and 3?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
We have
Sorry.
first and a second. Roll call,
Pick
please.
and Miller, correct? First
Yeah.
and second?
You got there first.
Gaglione,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Sani,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Okay. We had no deferred consent agenda items. On the regular agenda, we're going to do board appointments. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak on this issue? I see no hands raised. Okay. Budget and finance for this current year will be myself, Leffel, and Director Gagliotti. Air Service Marketing Community Relations will be myself and Director Pick. Airport Property Development and Leases will be Director Miller and Director Pick. Local Jurisdiction Liaison will be myself and Director Miller. Local Agency Formation Commission is me. Regional Taxi Authority, Director Pick. Transportation Agency for Monterey County, Director Miller. Special Districts Association Liaison, Director Sani. And Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments will be myself. So
We need a motion to approve.
we do.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on that? Okay, roll call, please.
Director Gaglione.
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Sani,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Now we're going to have a presentation on tenant parking relocation plan. It's like a big puzzle out there.
Mm.
Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about some operational items and tenant happenings. As Chair Leffel mentioned, as you come in from Olmsted Road, you'll see to the right, massive construction taking place. As you all are aware, this is for our commercial apron project. We're going to talk specifically today a little bit about that area, but more so the tenants that used to occupy that area. So the tenants used to occupy what we call our prepaid lot. They occupied about 40 spaces in this lot. So with the start of construction, we had a need to relocate them elsewhere. We are slightly space constrained here at the airport, but the planning projects department and the operations department worked synergistically to find an alternative employee parking area. And Denise is going to help me here with a Zoom. You may be able to see it better in your packet. So the purpose and objective was to, one, find a new area for the tenants to park, which is what you'll see here, Sky Park Drive, just to the west of Del Monte Aviation. We have about 40-ish parking stalls that have been signed and marked for our tenants. And Denise, if you can show the next picture. We also had to find a safe way to get our tenants from that new parking area on Sky Park Drive to the terminal. If you're familiar with the topography in that area of Del Monte Aviation and, oh, I forgot I have the point, the tower. How do I point, Denise? Is it the top button?
Middle, it should be the middle.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I don't see it on the screen.
Ah.
Okay, so the tower is just north of the stop share screen there. So the topography here, I want to point out, at Sky Park Drive and Henderson Way, there is a massive hill. There are no lights and there's no sidewalk. So we were able to collaboratively figure out this plan to get our tenants from that limited parking area that you just saw through the QTA and onto the terminal. So another thing that I want to point out about this QTA area, again, hard to see on this slide, but it's completely fenced off on all sides. If you look where the path kind of bisects the QTA, you're looking at the large white building to the left is the Del Monte Aviation hangar. Then it's the wash bay. Then it's the where they fuel the vehicles. There is a vehicle access gate there that locks at night. So that's what made this process a little bit more challenging. We didn't want them to walk on the hill that had no lights, no sidewalk, and we have to get them into this secured area. So if we can zoom out, Denise, then I'll go to the next slide. So we made 3 key modifications to the QTA area. First, we added a pedestrian gate to the west side, so closest to where the wash bay is for the vehicles. Then I'll draw your attention to the third picture. Sorry, my photos are out of order. We had to delineate a walkway through the QTA because you have to remember cars are constantly fueling, getting washed and being placed strategically throughout this area to dry. So we had to delineate a walkway for the tenants to get to the terminal. And then finally, we had to give access through the rental car gate, but that access did not have a need to be locked access. So there are 3 modifications that were made to this end. So now I'm going to talk to you about kind of our process-based approach to this change. You'll see on the left where exactly the 3 key changes are on the map. We started this process with a tenant communication campaign. We have periodic tenant manager meetings. So I believe we held one in October where we introduced the commercial apron project. So we had to remind our tenants that this was taking place. Obviously, everyone has known for quite a while that this is coming. So we started off the campaign by introducing the fact that early on in this project, we'd have to relocate them to another area. At that time, in October, we didn't know exactly where. Around the November timeframe, we continued our communication campaign, meeting with tenant managers, TSA managers, to kind of discuss their needs in terms of parking area. We identified in November where the new parking would be, and that's along Sky Park Drive. And at the end of November, we kind of figured out a plan on how we could get everyone there. We disseminated the information on where they needed to park. We signed and allowed them to begin parking in this new area early, even when their other area was still available, just to kind of make that transition easier. And finally, we gave them a 30-day notice to count down to January 1st is when this change became effective. So on our recap, you see the 3 pieces that we had to do to make this process work. And we're currently evaluating the process. I'm reaching out to tenant managers, just getting some feedback. A few other considerations and additional measures that we took to this effort was before the start of this utilizing this new parking area, we increased police patrols and parking enforcement to make sure that these spots could be available for our tenants. We kept the security aspect of the secured aspect of the QTA by adding that key code access gates. And we have committed to the QTA and our tenants to kind of just follow up to make sure that this process works. Although it is temporary, it is kind of like a temporary long-term deal that we'll have for a while. So we'll be making some changes and adjustments as needed. But that is kind of in a nutshell what's taken place. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I guess I have one.
Um,
How do
Director Gagliardi.
how do they like it? I mean, are they
They don't love it,
sure?
but it works.
Yeah.
But it works. They
And it's a swing,
understand.
right? I mean, this is just until like we can give them, or is it more permanent?
Again, temporary, long-term.
Okay.
We still have to figure out what parking will look like with
Yeah,
the new terminal. But for now, they have a space that is theirs that gets them to work, to and fro work.
Okay. Fair enough.
Director Sani, you turned it
I
off.
think you just turned off.
Right. Did you say how many spaces? Was it 40?
Yes.
Is that what I heard?
Yes.
I thank you for the well-presented information for us and for the staff as well. It sounds like it was really thought out, and even 30-day notice and things like that. It's important to transition
Yeah.
well, so, and
Try our best.
communicate.
Collaboration is what we aim for.
Thank you for the presentation.
Director Miller.
Thank you. Any estimation on how long do you think this will stay in place?
I don't know. It would be project dependent. Again, we are constructing, and I'm not going to step too far into planning and projects, but we're constructing the commercial apron, which will cause changes to our parking lot, which is why they had to be relocated. We're going to receive a temporary parking lot for passengers in the interim, but once the terminal is designed, a parking lot will be designed as well. And we will then reconfigure where everyone will be parking.
Any other impacts? I know at one time we had taxi cabs staging in that area. I don't know if they still do. And then overflow from some rental companies were using that as well.
Correct. So yeah, those are some impacts that we will have to deal with on a case-by-case basis. For the taxi cabs, so we limit the number of taxi cabs that can park in front of the building to 3 or 4. They did used to queue in that area. Now they kind of queue near our monument signage for now. Again, temporary, potentially long-term. We're looking for a better staging area for taxis. But frankly, for us, we don't have we don't usually have that much of a taxi backup. So usually everyone can queue in front of the building. As far as rental car overflow, that is another loss. We are working on finding other alternative areas for them when they need it. Again, they don't use these spaces all the time. Potentially there'll be some space available when we have our temporary long-term lot built. We don't know, but we're getting crafty and being flexible to accommodate them when necessary.
Is it a safe assumption to say this is years, not months?
Yeah, I'd say that is a safe assumption.
Thank you.
Director Pick?
Thanks, Chair. They say that parking is the most divisive issue on the peninsula, second only to water. So great work. You're never going to make everyone happy, I'm sure. But I really appreciate the staff's effort to come up with this solution. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
I have a question. Have you talked to PG&E or state parks about using some of their excess parking down there on Garden Road, making a deal?
So I don't know that we've spoken to those particular entities, but we are looking for alternative parking continually. But I can't say for
I
sure
can
that
give you the
we've-
contact for PG&E and I can probably get it for state parks. That might be, because when I drive past, their lots are probably a third to a half empty
Sure.
every day, unless there's some big power problem and then PG&E stages out of there. But they staged at the fairgrounds last year when they had a big problem. They didn't use their lot particularly. So it's not that far to walk, and then you could walk down Garden Road and down and not up the hill. You'd walk down the hill. So anyway, it's just an opportunity.
Yeah, and certainly share that contact information with us. We've engaged Ernie Lostrom to shop parking on Garden Road for us. We thought we had one, which was the building right behind the tower on Garden with the
2511.
But they've been non-responsive. We actually offered some money for them on a monthly basis. We offered them $2,500 for some parking spaces. And they've been quiet on that. Mr. Lostrom owns a couple of buildings on the south side of Garden Road that he's offered, and we've been hesitant to do that because it's a pretty good hike.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to look, but yeah, we're there. I know from what staff is telling me, from what my staff is telling me, we're engaged in finding access to the spaces that were behind the old Talbot property that are currently uninvolved. So as soon as we get that, we'll be using that for AT&T, and then we'll be using that for parental overflow. This team's doing a really good job of uncovering all of the rocks, moving all of the rocks to find whatever we can find. This is gonna be I think Director Pick said it perfectly. This is a divisive issue, but doing our best to make sure that everybody's got this part of the park. Can't promise that it's gonna be the most convenient, but our first and foremost is to make sure that our passengers are not impacted to any serious extent.
Have we offered benefits to our employees if they would carpool?
Yeah, it's not so much district employees.
Well, but I mean also our tenants,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, what we can offer them would be a suspension of the employee parking permits and the cost of those. Hesitate to do that only because that's a small number, but it does give them and us some protection about who's parking where and when. So hesitate to do that, but it's something that, we may end up having to look at.
I look at everything. I'm friends with the Mitchells who own 2511.
Yeah.
So I'll just reach out to her and ask her, and maybe I could connect them with Ernie and he can do what he does. I'll just make the connection.
You want to have them directly connected to Whitney, that would be
Okay.
perfect spot.
So
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I'll open it up to the public for comment. Okay, I see none. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Board and standing committee reports. So did anyone have anything else on budget finance? Director Sani, are you satisfied with it?
Yeah.
Air Service Marketing did not meet, nor did
Property.
property leases. So local jurisdiction didn't meet. Local Agency Formation Commission did meet. I think 3 times since we've been here. We meet again on Monday. And the LAFCO was ruled against on its on the lawsuit from the Water Management District. The one thing I will make clear in public is, unlike the Herald's reporting, the judge did not find any fault with the vote of myself or Director Poitras or Commissioner Lopez. Actually, he said that we all voted appropriately based on our words that we spoke during our voting. So the Herald reported that as though that was the reason he ruled against LAFCO. It was not. So going forward, we are working with our attorneys to see whether or not we will appeal, and I do not know if we will or not. Obviously, also in the lawsuit is Cal-Am, and whether or not they will appeal. I don't know if they will or not. So that will be fairly interesting. We directed staff to look at the agricultural mitigation, and the policy has been to preserve farmland, which is what Cortese Knox is for. But the ability for a developer or a city to come in to want to annex land has been all over the board. So when you came to LAFCO, you didn't know if the staff would recommend a 2-to-1 mitigation, a 3-to-1 mitigation, a 1.5 mitigation. It's been everything. So staff has argued that the mitigation has been that they have pretty much done one-on-one. But when you look at it, according to the staff report, they have averaged 1.5. So I'm kind of not sure how that math works. So it looks like we will probably ask for a implementation of policy, not changing the policy that much, because that is with Cortese Knox, but that we will actually go to some implementation requirements, requests, that we look at a more standard 1-to-1 mitigation. I think that's probably what's going to come. It's very fair to a city that's trying to work on what kind of land they've got around their borders and with what kind of housing or commercial jobs can be provided if they know coming in what they're going to do. And it doesn't take 8 months to 3 years to deal with the staff to negotiate that. So we'll see what we come up with. That'll be Monday at 3:00. Regional Taxi Authority,
Nothing to report?
TMC?
TMC did not, TMC did not meet in December. They are compiling the information from their community outreach meetings as part of the EIR, and there's more to come on that later.
Okay. Special Districts Association.
I'm gonna ask either, I believe Director Miller and yourself, Chair Leffel, were there yesterday, if you could provide an update. I could not attend.
Want me to take it?
Yes.
So after 4 years throughout COVID, I'm no longer chair of special districts in Monterey County. No one wanted to do it during COVID, so it just kind of kept rolling on. We did elect new officers last night, and the new chair will be Kathleen Lee from Monterey Regional Parks District. The vice chair is Director Miller from Monterey Regional Airport. And the secretary treasurer is Jeff Cecilio from Mosquito Abatement District. So those are our new officers, and it was unanimous in in the vote. So we, I think the nomination committee did a good job, got a good slate. And we had a presentation from Prism. Thank you, Mark, for kind of starting that. And I think it was well received. I saw a few people go up and ask for their cards after. It turns out that a lot of our special districts are in joint powers with other like districts. So like water districts are together or fire districts are together, where they have their own buying power because of how they do it, and they have their own specialties. But there are a lot of smaller districts that are just one-off, and I think they were very appreciative of the information. So we had Mike Doherty and Mark McAuliffe both came and presented last night. So, and there were a lot of questions. I think that probably went 20, 25 minutes with the interaction with the districts.
Well, everybody has their own horror stories with insurance.
Yeah.
And how expensive it's getting here in California.
So we have a new regional director, Rochelle Naroyan. And if you've been in politics a long time, you know Rochelle. She was on the Santa Cruz City Council. She worked for UC Santa Cruz for a long time. And she's been involved, the 30, 35 years that she's been very involved with politics. So she replaced Charlotte, who was excellent, who took a job with the water district down in San Luis Obispo County. And so Rochelle introduced herself last night, and we moved forward. So that was last night. Any questions on that one? And then AMBAG, Director Miller?
AMBAG did have a meeting. Most of the meeting was spent with their approving their forecast, going over economic development and growth. Was interesting to note, even though they had estimated a growth of Monterey County, there was actually a decrease. They attributed that to COVID. And their thoughts is it was a one-off. It won't repeat itself, but who knows? It is an interesting report, and I have copies I can send you electronically if anybody would like to see it. It talks about the whole region, and it was pretty interesting.
Maybe you could send it to Scott. He could send it out to everybody.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'd be interested in that. Do they have a sense of how many second and third homes there are versus
Yes,
just
they
first
talk about
homes?
that.
They
in-
do
in
talk
the-
about that. And that surprises me that there was a decrease
Yeah.
amidst COVID, because we had many people transition. I mean, it happened all over the country. Thank you.
Okay. That's the end of board reports. So we will go to closed session. Does anyone from the public have anything they'd like to say about closed session before we go? Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Nothing new at the Navy School?
It is 11:43 and we are back in open session. And we do have a report out, Mr. Huber.
We do. As to one of the items, as to one item in closed session, the board took action. Motion was made by Director Pick, seconded by Director Gagliotti, and the vote was 5-0 unanimous in the affirmative to reject the two claims filed by, and I may mispronounce the names, Varun Patibanda and Deepika Chadive. We will send out notices of the claim rejection to both of the claimants. As to the second matter in closed session, no reportable action was taken. No reportable action was taken.
Okay. So for the good of the order, I will call us adjourned.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.